Alright guys, such comic again. I hope you're doing well and enjoying your day so far. aBeZy from FaZe getting involved in some controversy last night, calling out many of the other pro players in the league for complaining about internet, as aBeZy believes way more than is actually necessary. We get a lot of talk, especially with the online qualifiers and online league that we have nowadays, about the importance of internet in competitive COD, which certainly is still there, but aBeZy reckons that a lot of the players are simply using that as an excuse to not actually improve their own gameplay. He reckons that sure, internet is a concern, but it's not as big of a concern as many of these pro players are making out. Is this a roast towards Toronto with the drama the other day? Is he talking about somebody else? Very much interested to your thoughts in the comments. Hit the like button if you enjoy. Subscribe if you're new as always. I greatly appreciate it. First of all, thought this is kind of cool from Clay, looking to get old man 8s going again, right? So, you know, Clay, get him in there, get some of the other OGs in there. Doug puts his hand up. Arcetes, obviously he's still in the league, but, you know, he's a veteran, right? Maybe he can get involved. Chino, Machilla, among others, are looking to get involved. Of course, we've got Money B. And X was raising an interesting question to say, you know, BO6, the new game, or old games, right? Because I think going back to some of the old games would be more fun. Octen says, let me see Pat on Fringe. And like, X always has a screenshot, man. This guy always has a screenshot. So he goes back to find this one when envious as it was back then. Wow, this is a real, like, throwback. I mean, it feels... Black Ops 3 doesn't feel that long ago. I don't know if you guys agree, but it literally came out a decade ago. Black Ops 3 came out, if I'm not mistaken, it did. 2015. It's going to be 10 years old this year, and it still looks and plays and feels way better to me than any of the recent CODs. But yeah, they don't make them how they used to. We know that. Anyway, this was the Envy team at the time. This is like early days, isn't it, during that season? So Slasher, Aches, JCap, and TP, because of course, you know, Slasher eventually with Envy went on to win the World Championship, but with a very different team indeed. When they had John and Apathy eventually join in place of Aches and TP as the season went along, and this was the Rise Nation team with Octane, Slacked, Looney, and Classic that they won the what was it called, the UMG South Carolina or something. It was like a dodgy internet event, I think, that they won. Totino's Invitational, was that another one as well? And in this screenshot, of course, Aches is here jobbing 40 on the other side of things on the Fringe. So, you know, managed to find that one. Octane says, didn't last long, unfortunately, because it actually, well, went even further. So I'm hoping that we get to see a little bit of, you know, Octane can get in there, Paddy P can get in there, and all that type of stuff. Now, also thought this was kind of cool. A couple of guys pointed this out to me. I think Edward pointed out to me as well on, well, Toronto putting some content together for the World Championship. So this is their Champs Venue Tour. They say content soon. So this is clearly one of the suites they've got here in Kitchener. So they've got Regional Waterloo. Now look, don't get me wrong. The venue, I'm sure, is going to be great. But, you know, that's not been the concern, has it, really, with Kitchener? I mean, as you guys can see here, they've got the screen up at the top of the middle. They've got Champs 2025. They've got COD Champs Weekends presented by Bell. They've got Toronto Ultra. They've got everything going around the sides. I mean, it's actually a similar stadium, really, to what we've had in Texas, right? The Credit Union of Texas, whatever. It's a pretty similar sized stadium to where we've been there. You know, here are the Toronto boys recording some sort of podcast as well to get it going. And some pretty good content from Toronto really putting this together. So this just gives you a feeling of the venue, the way that it looks right now. And look, I would love it if they can fill this venue with 7,000 people. But, and you can do that in Texas. We did it last year. Can you do that in Kitchener? I don't really know. So anyway, this is the type of content that Toronto have been coming out with, just by way of comparison, really, because you get a good look at the stadium here. I saw this floating around a look really at what it was like at Major 2. So this was the setup at Major 2. This is what the booths looked like and all this. So it's kind of like a similar type of venue to what we had in Texas. This, of course, was the same venue we went to a few weeks ago that they held the World Championship at last year. And look, it's Champs. It's going to be a big deal, but there's an argument that they could have held it in downtown Toronto instead. Whatever. We've talked about that at length before, and they're not going to change it, are they? Right? Like, I know that after this was confirmed, there was lots of backlash to it. There was some people suggesting, oh, maybe they'll just change their mind. But no, you know, it's locked in now. It is what it is. You know, we'll see. I guess we'll see. Couple of quick things to mention before we just talk about aBeZy. Of course, Cellium and aBeZy now teaming together. They were not at the time when Cellium first came into the league. Of course, famously, this 1v4 was when Cellium was not a 1v4 technically, but he did like slam all of these 4 guys in a row. This was kind of the first moment where we saw Cellium play and we're like, wow, this guy is kind of a little bit built different. And Scump was even talking about the hardest kill in his career, saying that Cellium's definitely in the conversation, putting the likes of aBeZy in there as well, and we'll mention him in a second. So I'll share that clip for you guys, but I'll also share this clip as well. So aBeZy is talking about the internet drama in the league. Now, this is always going to be a thing. It's never going to go away as long as we're playing some degree of online Call of Duty, which we always will be, whether it will always be a part of the CDL. You know, you'd ideally like to imagine a world where we can go back to a LAN league, online qualifiers cease to exist, but they have their place, they have their benefits. I kind of understand it. I just wish that it was less important than it is. They have changed, thankfully, the numbers over the last couple of years. So now instead of when you won an event, what was it? You get like 65 points winning an event before. Now you get 100 with 10 for the online qualifiers. So the qualifiers are less important, but they're still very important because it determines the seeding for the major. And everyone knows that the internet is a factor in competitive Call of Duty. It always will be. aBeZy's perspective, though, isn't to deny that internet is a factor. Like, I think everybody knows that it's relevant. But I guess the point is that some pros, they'll look at, you know, a 15 ping difference and they'll think it's the end of the world. And it is a significant difference. I think that, you know, at the end of the day, any kind of discrepancy in ping is relevant, even to some degree, but my feeling has tended to be that some players, you know, they get it in their head too much that, oh, we're at a ping disadvantage, there's no way we can possibly win. And I think that's what aBeZy's going for, really, is that there are certain players, as he sees it, that will use internet issues and ping discrepancies as kind of like a proxy for actual issues in their team. Whereas aBeZy's point is, look, yeah, internet may be a factor, but you could just get better and make it less of a factor.
That plays at
MP with a 10. The hardest kill of your careers. Can't name the same player. Much love.
And secure the final double for finally an offensive round win.
They
take the, I just need to do what they've been doing so far on defense in this map stairs.
No?
I would say towards the end of my career, I'd say HyDra.
I'd probably say, I don't even know, probably aBeZy.
I'm a little bit of trouble.
What about you, Mark?
Hardest kill? I'd say like you, Saint, Renato was a pretty hard kill.
Yeah, Nato was nasty.
Scrim was a pretty hard kill. Actually, I would say you and Karma. Damon was a hard ass kill.
Getting loose?
Yeah,
Honestly,
I'd say you and Karma.
Cellium's up there too. That dirty bastard.
Damon on Ghost was a hard ass.
Personally, to me, I think the whole like complaining about, you know, internet, this, that, whatever the case is, like, I think it's the funniest thing ever. Because, bro, if you have fiber, you should not be complaining about internet, dude. And I think a lot of the players in this league just make excuses for internet and, you know, shit like that. And it's just, it's actually hilarious to me. Like, I just see so many excuses slash, like, blaming internet. And, bro, people just don't, they genuinely just use it as an excuse instead of trying to get better at the game. And it's funny. It's funny.
So who do we think aBeZy's talking about here? Because he must have someone in mind when he makes a comment like this. And I actually like aBeZy's perspective on this, really. I think, to me, it's a pretty winning mentality to say, yeah, like, I'm not sure he's denying that issues can and do exist, but he's more saying it's pointless to think about them if you can't control it. Focus on trying to be a better team and it won't matter, right? Because, like, at the end of the day, you could be, if you're Atlanta FaZe and you're playing the old Vegas Falcons team, maybe even the new one, but the old Vegas Falcons team for sure, in a LAN environment or even online, you know, you could give the Falcons guys 50 ping advantage and it might not make too much difference, right? Like, you know, who knows? Obviously, it's substantial and you'd lose more gunfights than you would otherwise, but if you play better fundamental COD, you're still going to win the series. So I think that's what aBeZy's getting at, and I think it's a good mentality. You don't see FaZe complain much about things like this, and I think it is to their advantage. There are, you know, they could complain about things, but usually FaZe keep it under wraps. Yeah, there's been talk about, oh, well, FaZe, they often, you know, they pull the plug, they go for the reset cheese. Okay, maybe there's some correlation there between that happening and FaZe playing, but I'm not really sure that's so much the case. So what's aBeZy getting at? Who's he targeting with these comments? You know, I thought it was kind of interesting. The other day, we had the drama between Toronto and Boston where they forfeited the series due to rubber banding. Now, is he coming at this? Is he saying, look, guys, you know, you should be less focused on the internet stuff and more focused on being better so it doesn't matter? Maybe, but to me, this seemed like a pretty legitimate issue between the teams, and Toronto are obviously pretty good. I mean, they just beat FaZe the other day, so I'm not sure that aBeZy can really be coming out and, you know, implying that Toronto need to just get good because, you know, they did beat them the other day. Yes, it was online. My feeling is it's, you know, potentially other players. I couldn't find that many tweets with this in mind, I did think there was the Abuzah discussion, right? Because if you guys remember, Abuzah, well, they're still playing out of Vancouver, right? And it's not exactly the ideal internet scenario. Abuzah says playing every day on 70 ping, not very happy about it, and totally understandable. I get it as well. I'd be complaining too, to be fair, if I wasn't in a great internet situation online. But then, Abuzah has and Surge have dropped some serious bombs online on occasion, right? So it doesn't seem to have affected them all that badly. And certainly the first event of the season, especially when they had Hixie in the team, they went like 4-3 in the online qualifiers. And, they were talking about, oh, well, we've been playing on bad ping, right? So, 4-3 online, we're going to go to LAN and be the best. And then they got slabbed, right? It was bad. Now, it's obviously relevant because I think Neptune is still playing out of, where's he from? Is it Indianapolis? Or, like, wherever he's currently based. I think that's where he's playing out of. He might be, like, living in Texas now, but I think he's from Indiana originally. Wherever he's playing from, he's not moved to Vancouver with the rest of the team, and there's probably a reason for that. So it's not like internet isn't a factor. Maybe he's getting at this. I know there's also been talk as well about OpTic recently, right? Because, OpTic have played a couple of scrims in recent weeks that have got chalked up. I mean, this was kind of one of the more dramatic ones when they played Toronto, and they decided to chalk the final couple of control maps because they were, they were pinging 37, Toronto were pinging 20. So I think the feeling was that, oh, this server, it's not looking good for us. We're probably not going to be able to win. It's not really fair practice. That was maybe the implication. So is that what aBeZy's getting at? I don't know. We don't see enough of this kind of information behind the scenes to make a particular value judgment. But definitely intrigued to your perspective on all this stuff in the comments section below. Just one final thing then, speaking of the games, these are this weekend's games. Just wanted to kind of have a quick look ahead here because there are some, again, interesting games. At this point in the season, all of these matches are really fascinating. I actually think that, usually Major 3, Major 4, the qualifiers become really, not interesting at all. But right now, there's so much to play for because of all the drama that's happened this season. OpTic played 2 games again this weekend, but it's Miami and Vegas. So 2 series they should win. Of course, historically, they've had some issues with the Falcons, and then they play Pred on the Saturday. That is certainly a big deal. I'm excited for that one. Vancouver versus Gentlemates. I mean, okay, that's probably one of the lesser series on paper, but even something like Ravens Minnesota, huge series. I mean, Minnesota, again, a massive week for them. They play Ravens and Cloud9. If they win both of those series, they are in a real nice spot going into champs. They lose both, all of a sudden, then it's really all to play for again, especially if Cloud9 can bounce back, but that seems a little bit improbable as it stands. So very much interested to your thoughts on all of this stuff in the comments. Hit the like button if you enjoyed, subscribe if you're new, take care, and I'll see you next time.
Yo, there could be more here. Oh yeah, coming, to our left. I got no plates.
Oh, I'm sticking it.
Another one, black guy. Oh, character.